Hey, it's Nick and Jay, and we're back from MSR Houston, deep in the heart of Texas, and really the pinnacle of paddock design on the Lemons circuit.
What does MSR even stand for?
Well, it stood for a couple of things over the years. For a long time, it was Motorsports Ranch. Before that, I think there was a sponsorship deal, and it was Mercedes of Sugarland. Today, it is Motor Speedway Resort. And who knows what MSR will stand for in the future?
More important for our purposes, the name of the event, which was the Yokohama Stuntin' and Splodin' Soiree, which of course refers to Yokohama, our longtime tire sponsor. They showed up in force. They brought Travis Pastrana, they brought Conor Daly, they brought barbecue for everybody in the paddock, and they brought two incredible refined race cars, a Checker and an El Camino.
Now, the Checker had a beefy-sounding 383 Chevy, racy-looking suspension, and these gigantic wheels wrapped in the latest Advan A052s from Yokohama. I guess having these 295 section width, 20-inch wheels on a checkered cab is a great way to draw attention to your product.
Meanwhile, the El Camino, is full of pros. Travis Pastrana in that car, like I said, Conor Daly, 6th place in the Indy 500 this year. These guys know what they're doing, but when you move from open-wheel Indy cars and full-race rally Subarus to an El Camino, you're bound to be impressed, right?
Sounds mean out of the corners, but it doesn't go anywhere. We don't go anywhere. You hit it once, and then you might have brakes, but usually like 2 or 3. And then you can come in, just like,
I was braking with both my right foot and my left foot.
How did that work for you?
No, I don't like it.
Speaking of Yokohama, at all Lemons races, not just this one, which is named for Yokohama, you've got a chance of winning a drawing at the end of the race for a free set of tires if you start the race on a set of Yokohamas. Squish Racing took home the free set at MSR for their Beetle.
Hella Sweet is the Lemons Sweet 16 party. Whole block of races right around now. We've been at this 16 years. I don't know why. We've been trying to celebrate with cake and parties and, stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun. And one of the things we've done is bring back famous old penalties, such as Mime Your Crime.
Houston is the home of custom slab car culture. If you've been following Lemons for any length of time, you should know this, because we love slabs. Whenever we're at MSR, Houston local Judge Sajeev, he implements the slab penalty, which is very simply turn your Lemons car into a slab.
Now, some teams didn't wait for the penalty to get into the slab spirit, and good on them. Breaking Bad Slab was one of them. They have a V8 swap BMW. They had the Swangas. They had the mustard and mayonnaise Vogue wheels. They really did it all. They had the giant stereo. Now, they had to take the Swangas off of the car for handling, and that really helped them in the race.
Now, breaking bad driving through the field was part of a larger trend at MSR. Kinda fast, kinda cheated up cars getting beat by stuff like, an AMC Gremlin or whatever. You had property devaluations Ford small block E36 BMW. And then you had this turbo LS V8 swapped BMW E46. $500 my ass. Well, that car, it caught on fire and got beat by a Gremlin. So we were sitting there chuckling about this turn of events and the little water spout that was coming out of the car after it got put out by the fire department. And one of their guys said, this isn't a laughing matter. I don't know, Jay, do you think this is a laughing matter?
That seems like a laughing matter to me. What do I know?
I don't know. Do you think this is a laughing matter? Post in the comments.
Sadly but terrible at this race was Ginger Racing. These guys are always competitive. They really have their act together. This time they entered a dominant on paper 7-car roster. Everybody was terrified. And it didn't exactly work out. First the Supra crapped out, then a couple of BMWs crapped out, then one of the Mustangs crapped out. Even the Honda had problems. That is hard to do. So it was just awful, and it left it down to the other Mustang to carry the day.
Another very suspicious, cheaty-looking vehicle was Barely Legal's wide-body 80s Fox chassis Thunderbird. Now, Regardless of how cheaty it is, it looks hella sweet. Somehow, it always slips by Judge Sajeev without any penalty hassles. It's almost like he's got a thing for 80s Fords or something.
Anyway, I got beat by a gremlin, so, don't get too worked up about that. And MSR wasn't all steely-eyed, cheated-up racers who got beat by a gremlin. There was plenty of real, normal, straight-up Lemons cars. The VW Jetta of Jettageddon, awesome.
And then you had the excellent racing machine, the Iron Duke-powered S10 of fossil fuel racing.
The Chevy Lumina of Illuminati, great name by the way, total grandma car, still had grandma's old tree leaves under the hood, awesome.
We had the Camry from Least Wanted. Right off the bat, we knew this was going to be a bitter grudge match against the Lumina.
You lose.
Elsewhere in regular ranks, the Kia Spectra came with sponsorship from Tin Roof Brewing. I happen to notice this because I've been to Tin Roof in Baton Rouge, and it is delicious.
Now look, there's no wrong way to do lemons, maybe with the exception of being a total wad. But if we're asked to pick favorites between a cheated up BMW and a Lumina full of leaves, I think you know which way we're gonna lean. If you're losing to a gremlin anyway, isn't it less embarrassing to do it in a Lumina?
Hella sweet, rowdy Audi has upgraded their Audi 4000 by removing the 5-cylinder and putting in a 4-cylinder.
We always like to see Speedy Monzales. Arguably, Speedy's looking a little bit worse for wear after years of Lemons competition.
Speaking of well-seasoned Lemons race cars, the Nissan 300ZX of CarBQ is now threatening to twin charge, i.e. supercharge and turbocharge, because either one alone is too unreliable, their car. So if you live anywhere in Texas and you need Nissan engine parts, get them all now. Next year they will all be taken.
And speaking of dicey forced induction, we had these veterans in the Turbo Festiva.
The Rusty Bucket List BMW 1602. It's a 1602.
Hey, earlier when we were talking about all those cheaty supercars, how did we neglect to mention the only Ferrari F40 to ever race in lemon?
And as always, a bunch of classic themes. Office Space, always good. Super Mario, always good. Buzz Lightyear, always good, particularly if you have an Infinity and can call it Infinity and Beyond. Which is almost as good as if you have a Horizon and you call your team Event Horizon.
And you had Schadenfreude Racing, BMW with a Mercedes diesel, and then you had the Lap Dogs. How can you not like this theme?
The Glue Sticks showed up with a bunch of Phillies fans, that's where they're from originally, just in time for the World Series, against the Texas team.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Beerling's back. This game is turned upside down.
Now we love a peaceful protest for a good cause. Low speed, high drag racing drew attention to a very major issue affecting everybody that weekend, the end of daylight savings time.
All right, let's move on to the trophies. Let's start with the special award for this race, which was the Keep Austin Nice Award. Now, on the West Coast and the East Coast, and even to some degree the South Coast, a lot of teams have great themes and they got great costumes. In Texas, not saying anything about you Texans, but you guys are kind of lame. You're going to have to ramp it up a little bit. So much so that all these guys had to do to win a trophy was, be nice.
Here in Lemon's Sweet 16 year, we've got a car that was only 3 years old when we had our first race, and now nobody thinks twice about it being a total $500 box. Why?
Because Nissan.
Now this was a rookie team called Shake and Break. They scored this 03 G35 for cheap somehow.
Because Nissan.
And it immediately blew up. Why? I don't know. Now, despite not having a huge amount of wrenching experience, they scored a replacement engine, immediately got to work on the swap. Now, the problem with these 21st century cars, if the engine isn't from the same year, the same make, the same model, the same trim, the same color as the original, there's gonna be something critically different in how it operates. These guys knew this. They went out, they got the right generation, the right year, the right spec, everything, except the motor was from an automatic, their car is a manual.
Anybody who's had to do this knows that's a complete nightmare. These guys, they figured it out, except for some reason they had to tape an oxygen sensor with zip ties to a random location under the hood. And it worked. Kind of.
Because Nissan.
The I Got Screwed trophy went to Orca Racing and their Cadillac CTS. But wait, you say, didn't Orca Racing's Cadillac CTS burn to the ground at NOLA recently? Yes, it did. Now, nobody was hurt, thank goodness, but their car burnt to a crisp at NOLA. Some other guy sees a picture of that on social media and says, well, I've got a complete junker-ass CTS in my backyard. This is an opportunity to get rid of it. I even have a chip tune on it, good for 900 horsepower. So, Orca Racing gets suckered into this vision. They get the CTS, they prepare it for Lemons Racing, and only then do they figure out that the 900 horsepower chip tune also raises the shift points and red line to 10,000 RPM. Well, guess what happened? So now it's a week before the race. They find another motor, they put it in, doesn't quite work right, there's some electronic problems, they go, no more chip tune! Now they gotta get a junk ECU. They literally have some ECU wackadoo genius replacing individual pins all week long up to the day of the race. Yes, they made it run. No, they never made it run any better than terrible. They got screwed.
Judge's choice went to a team of all college kids from Texas A&M. They were called Aggie Lemons. They had a V6 Ford Mustang. And when we say college team, they were actually an officially sanctioned college organization through their school, Texas A&M. Speaking from personal experience setting up a college student organization, I think a lot of schools have the same setup where they have 400 requirements, endless paperwork. It's all based on the usually correct assumption that, man, these Gran Turismo 7 playing stoners ain't gonna do all of this. Or, in my case, man, these Gran Turismo 1 playing stoners ain't gonna do all of this. But, if you actually do call their bluff, take all of the steps, jump through all of the hoops to become a sanctioned organization, then you get all kinds of benefits. You might get course credits. You might get cash funding. Once you're sanctioned, you could totally, in theory, take the school's money, go on a huge Costco run, and throw a giant barbecue for you and the homies. Not that anybody would ever do that. Now, these Aggies did something way more productive than that. They built a Lemons car, and a pretty good one. As we said before, the V6 Mustang has a way better track record than the V8s in Lemons. And at this particular race, the Aggies beat more than one of those V8 swap BMWs.
Man, it's been amazing. I've made so many great friends through this. Like, it's awesome. But this is 2 years in the making for us. This is absolutely insane. I'm so glad to be here.
Organizer's choice went to the Black Flag Society and their Saturn SC2. Now, way back when, this was a pretty competitive Lemons car. Years and years ago, they used to run it with a fabulous Speed Racer theme, but that was so long ago. Now their theme is just, this old Saturn is too f***ed up for this. Now, Team Captain Jeff was part of that original team, and you know, the drivers, as they do, they got older, they sort of drifted off to other things. He reassembled a team, but it's the same old car. And look, let's be honest, Lemons has gone through a lot of speed creep. People have gotten way better at driving. The technology has gotten a lot better for how you put these cars together. So there was no way that a car that was competitive, top 10, 10 years ago, could possibly be competitive now.
Now, one of the teams that Saturn didn't beat, in fact, this was a team that was only beaten by 4 other teams in this 100-plus car field, was our IOE winner, Team Lowball in the AMC Gremlin. Now, of course, obviously this is an AMC Gremlin, but to finish 5th overall, surely it's got a fuel-injected V8 swap. Surely it's a tube chassis race car with just a Gremlin body on top. Well, surely they also have a team full of Travis Pastranas and Conor Dalys. Nope, it turns out they're just a group of decent drivers who stay out of trouble in a pretty reliable car. You know, they love AMC products. This was their other car for the weekend. And that's sometimes all it takes to finish at the pointy end of a Lemons race and take home the grand prize.
Well, yes.
And that just leaves the Halloween Meets Gasoline trophy presented by eBay Motors. Now, talked a lot about Yokohama earlier. Oh, that's great. Let's talk about eBay Motors. They provide $1,000 for the best costumes and themes at every race. And they do a bunch of other stuff too. In this race, now as we admitted, a little bit thin on the theming, but there's always one team that comes through at least. And this time, Escape Velocity with their turbocharged Plant 6 Dodge Dart, mind you, did a fantastic Demolition Man theme. What is Demolition Man? Well, Demolition Man is a movie from the 90s that, actually is pretty good. Now, just to briefly explain what's going on here, Demolition Man, it's set in the future. Sylvester Stallone is a cop who can knit, and Wesley Snipes is a blonde. All restaurants are Taco Bell, and Wesley and Sylvester were unfrozen from cryo prison. That's important. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough, period stars Dennis Leary is also in it. Why? It's Dennis Leary. He's the resistance leader against the artificial utopia created by Dr. Raymond Cocteau. Let me give you an example. Here's Edgar Friendly raiding the Taco Bell to feed his resistance fighters.
Get off! Cops, go! Ah, no! You think you're doing a good thing, you big damn hero? Stop!
All makes perfect sense, right? Here's Lemons in a nutshell.
Every second you don't subscribe or watch one of these videos, another Vega is sent to the crusher. Won't you help us save Classic?